Call the November 1st Common Council meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Recording
for the
in
last time,
progress.
Please call the roll.
Alderman Olson.
Good job, Madam
It
Clerk.
might be
She's got
my
a few of
last
those.
Just coming
time.
out with a bang.
She has a few of those left before
I'm
she
not
leaves.
ready, I was being rushed. Mayor Olson,
Well, both of them are here.
Alderman Holfer.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Here.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Here.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Nelson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start the meeting with a laugh.
Okay, Sandy doesn't want a big deal, and frankly, I forgot that this was her last meeting, which I apologize profusely to her for, but 37 years of Sandy being next to us all, we're going to miss her. I don't feel the need to say anything more. Anybody else?
I haven't.
Alderman Wilhelm, of course.
Not on the agenda.
It's not. Well, you get it anyway. I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with you for like 23 years, and I'm really going to miss you. And you've done excellent work and running a fabulous department. And wish you all the best. Whatever life brings you.
Thank you.
Alderman Nelson?
It's definitely been an honor and a pleasure to work with you, and I'm going to say for you, because when Madam Clerk speaks, we listen if we're smart, and gave us a lot of guidance. And I was, like I've said this before, whenever we're stumped or whatever, we come to you, we always get the right answer. It's a judgment-free zone in your office, as you say, so you don't judge us when we ask the same question 5 times and want to explain to us 10 times. So, Madam Clerk, thank you very much for your years of service, your dedication. It's meant a lot to this city, and you've watched it grow and prosper in many different ways, and you've got a lot to be proud of. Thank you.
Alderman Barber?
Simply, you've made me a better alderman, and we love you.
Thank you.
I don't want to say too much, I'll cry.
Well, there will be on
thank
November
you.
11th an opportunity reception in this room from, I want to say 3 until 5, right? Sandy?
3 until 3:30.
I haven't been invited.
3 until 3:02. But in this room, and all are welcome. I do know that there are plans. So
What's the date?
her staff is conspiring, the 11th, which,
Well,
Michelle,
it's been a pleasure working with
we're not done
everybody.
yet, just
Oh,
chill.
Okay.
Alderman Eichman.
Thank you, Sam, for everything. All words. We miss. Thank you.
Alderman Hofer.
Just wanted to extend my thanks not only for your service and your dedication, but for your help in our personal interactions over the many years. You will be missed, and I wish you well in the future.
I have a question.
Alderman Willen.
Every political. That was totally out of line. I just had to
It's
throw
not-
that in.
Not on the agenda.
I was just teasing.
Okay, I hope that everybody in the community takes a moment to extend their best wishes to Sandy. I think she and the city attorney are going to reenact their Potawatomi membership. Yeah. Okay.
Different plans.
Okay, good. All right, let's move on. We did roll call, citizens comment period. Any citizen wishing to speak, please rise, come forward, give us your name and address, and tell us what you want to tell us.
Hello, Andy Pelkey, 9320 West Grandview Court. I am here today just to say that I submitted a petition to the council before the last common council meeting. My understanding is that you have to get it in by Friday for it to be included on Tuesday's meeting, and I got it in on Friday for last Tuesday's meeting. It didn't make the agenda. Fine, but it also didn't make this agenda. So that's a problem. Citizens have the right to petition their government, and when the petition falls on deaf ears, well, that's just not good. So I talked to Sandy today, and her explanation was that the mayor hadn't yet approved it to go on to the council minutes, and that there was no hurry because he viewed it as just a letter. Not correct? Or just not quite correct? Go ahead. Don't want to misspeak.
First of all, the mayor runs the meeting,
Okay,
not the citizens. Go ahead and tell us what you need to tell us.
okay, well,
I can assure you that that's not what the clerk was told,
okay.
and
Well, I just, I sent you a copy of this, so you've already seen it. It says petition very clearly across the top, and it says, I, Andrew Pelkey, I'm not going to read the whole thing, don't worry, citizen and taxpayer of the city of Franklin, do hereby petition the city to have a qualified third-party individual or qualified third-party organization review the work performed pursuant to the assessment contract between the city of Franklin and Accurate Appraisal to determine if the work was performed in accordance with the assessment contract. I think this is an important problem, and I know I've spoken many times about it, and I've given you a pile of evidence that things are not quite as they should be. And I hope that at some point here, this council will take it seriously, and the administration will take it seriously, and do something about it. Thanks very much.
thank you very much. Anyone else? Alderman Wilhelm.
Council get a point of clarification about what the municipal code says for the placement on items on the agenda?
We'll make that happen for you.
I just want to say, I believe it's just to the clerk's office. I didn't think there was a ruling of who could allow or not allow. I thought the clerk set that. So that's what I was just trying to clarify.
Good evening.
Good evening, Steve Hintz, Police Sergeant, 9455 West Loomis Road. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for your time. I'm speaking tonight in regards to the recommendation to deny the request of raising sergeant comp time hours. I have served the city of Franklin and its citizens for 12 years, the last 7 of which have been as a sergeant. I'd like to express an understanding that neither I nor any of the sergeants are unappreciative of the benefits we are extended and which are highlighted in the council action packet. A brief background of this proposal and several of the highlighted benefits. Over a year ago, the sergeants proposed several ideas to incentivize the position and attract future candidates. These proposals required committee and council action, which included an increase in comp time to match the 200-hour union max, a sick leave incentive program, and altering the sergeant's work schedule. The sick leave incentive program and schedule change were denied. I'd like to address several of the highlighted benefits provided in the council action packet. Pertaining to personal holidays, the police union has 4. All citywide employees, not just the sergeants, receive 5, so long as they have 5 or more years of service with the city. Vacation days, police union members with 18 to 22 years of service and 130 days of sick time accrued are granted additional week of vacation, a cost that's incurred to the city. A sergeant must convert sick time to vacation time to get this benefit. Police union members convert no time. As far as sick leave, sergeants are granted a bonus sick day every 4 months as long as no sick time is used during that period. The police union uses a sick leave incentive program. Unfortunately, the monetary impact of this program was not included in the council packet. Police union members accrue thousands of dollars over the course of their careers and utilize these funds to offset the cost of insurance premiums upon retirement. The monetary payout impact of increasing sergeant comp time was also noted in the council action packet. It is important to make apparent that the approximate 48 members of the police union have the current benefit to accrue 200 hours of comp time until retirement or separation from the city. The monetary payout impact of 48 police union members accruing 200 hours of comp time far exceeds that of the 8 sergeants on the department. Once again, the sergeant's intent is not to minimize the current benefits in place. Increasing the sergeant's comp time accrual to 200 hours will align us with the police union we supervise, potentially offset costs of retirement insurance premiums, and help with the overall recruitment of future sergeant promotions. I'd like to extend a thanks to Alderman Nelson, who at the committee level was in full understanding and support of the impact of this proposal to the sergeant's benefits and the overall impact the sergeant's position has on the police department and the services we provide the Franklin community. I respectfully ask that members of this council consider overturning the recommended denial of the sergeant comp time and grant the sergeants 200 hours of comp time accrual. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. Anyone else? Detective, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, or evening. So I'm Detective Melissa Tromp, 9455 West Loomis Road. Been employed at the City of Franklin for 23 years, and on October 18th was the first time that I addressed this committee in my 23-year career here. And this is the second time, and I hope it's the last time. So I just want to clarify some things. I've enjoyed working here in the City of Franklin, and I've enjoyed the community and the citizens. They have always been very supportive of our police department. You know, in 2020, when all the riots were going on and our police department responded to Kenosha, Tulsa, Milwaukee, I had family members and friends who were out of the area who called and were concerned. And I told them, I work for a wonderful community and our citizens support us. And so that has always been a standard. And I know the City of Franklin has provided us excellent equipment and excellent training. So in the area, I believe we're one of the best when it comes to equipment and training. So I don't understand why there's an issue with paying our police officers. Okay, we have a problem right now with staffing, and it's only going to get worse. Okay, other jurisdictions are paying attention to what's happening here. As a law enforcement officer, we know what's going to attract other officers. And I've heard aldermen and people say, well, we want to be in the top, I don't know, third in the area in order for payment, for salary for the officers. And we're no longer there. We've now fallen to the bottom. We're in the bottom third. We're no longer competitive with the other communities that are around us. And that's an issue when you're trying to hire and staff your police department. So fully staffed, we have 48 officers and detectives that are in the police union. Currently, there's 42 on the road. By the end of this year, you'll have a resignation from one of your sergeants. So there will be 7 sergeants instead of 8. And there are guaranteed 3 retirements as in January. So we're going to be down at least 9 members of the police department. So this impacts us, okay? You have your police officers who are now working forced overtime. And when they get forced overtime and they don't get their days off, you're going to get burnout. And they're not going to want to work here, and they'll look for other communities where that is not happening. So I would urge this committee to start addressing and asking what the issue is here. So I would just like to thank you for your time. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one else rise, I will close the citizens' comment period. Let's move on to approval of the regular meeting minutes of the October 18th meeting. Any additions or corrections?
Second.
Barber and Eichmann, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to skip over G1 because there is, at the moment, I move to items G3, which is a holding tank agreement. Take care of some of this business first. Wilhelm and Barber, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. City Attorney, G3.
My understanding, the motion to be as set forth on the Common Council action sheet.
The motion was as set forth on the action sheet, and the motion carried. G4, which is similar for another address at 9801 South 27th Street. Alderman Holfer and Alderman Wilhelm as written on the council action sheet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There you go. That wasn't hard. Okay, let's move back to item G1. Is there a motion to go into closed session, enter closed session pursuant to 19.85 sub 1 sub C and E to discuss collective bargaining strategy regarding negotiations with the Franklin Police Officers Association for competitive and bargaining reasons, and re-enter open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as the common council deems appropriate.
Move.
All right, I'm going to do Barber then Holfer. Madam Clerk.
Alderman Hopper.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to go into closed session. We're going to stop the stream, but we will come back to the stream as we come out of closed session.
Recording stop.
No action to be taken on the previous item. Is there a motion to direct staff to proceed as discussed and closed? Barber and Hanneman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to G2. Request for, wait a minute. Am I right? Yeah. G2 is request for council action, fire department to get a grant for wetsuit. So such a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G3, we did. G4, we did. G5 is a resolution authorizing officials to execute a tax assessment agreement as part of Tax Incremental District Number 6 with Rise Franklin, Inc. Mr. City Attorney.
Short version is, I thought there ought to be some changes. The agreement as is before the Common Council, the term I used was, is not fatal. In any event, I did have a telephone discussion with the developer representative on Friday, and he was going to contact Rise because my thought was I could just add these provisions, 99% of which were in a prior tax incremental or tax assessment agreement with that particular development area. And I have not heard back from him. So I can quickly just give you the changes that I thought should be made. Flip side is, as I stated, the agreement as is doesn't have fatal issues with regard thereto. And you can also see what the Director of Administration thinks about it because she's the one that's been working with the developers and received this from them. In any event, just a simple.
Jesse, before you get there, do you want to just tell them what it's about, what it does, what the function of the agreement does? Just so everybody understands that part.
Well, it guarantees a minimum tax assessment amount. And in the event, through the years stated within the agreement, if the new development does not raise the property value as intended by the developer above those minimum assessment values, then the property and property owner are subject to paying the difference up to the amount set forth in the agreement. Okay?
Tax year 2025 and beyond, $5 million. Before we move on, Alderman Nelson. You push your button.
If the city attorney is good with it, then I'll make the motion to proceed.
With the changes, with the negotiate, let's do this, let's give him a little room, right? With the negotiated changes by the city attorney.
Do you want to hear them?
But we want to hear him, yeah. Well, let's do this. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Alderman Barber. Mr. City Attorney.
All right, right out of the gate, the document draft or signed by the new development property owner does have the standard recorded form, first page on it. Standard process for the city of Franklin is that the name and return address thereon should be to the city of Franklin, care of the office of the city clerk, etc. So I would change that. Section 1, I believe at the end, I would add a personal obligation provision, notwithstanding and in addition to the levying of such special assessment or special charge, the payment obligation shall be the personal obligation of the person or entity that is owner and/or any successor dash owners or assigns of the property at the time the assessed value of the property is less than the minimum assessed value. In section 2, which is entitled No Property Tax Exemption, I would add a shortfall provision in addition to just payment of taxes, and the addition would state, the property is also subject to the tax incremental district number 6 development agreement between the city of Franklin and Loomis and Ryan, Inc., including in part Article 2 payment of taxes, payment in lieu of taxes provisions, in part providing that in the event that any portion of the property becomes exempt from ad valorem taxes during the statutory life of the district, and for a period of 20 years thereafter, paren the pilot term, close paren, then the developer and/or any successor developer and/or owners, successors, and assigns of such exempt portion of the property shall make, paren, or cause to be made, close paren, during the pilot term, annual payments in lieu of taxes in amounts equal to what the ad valorem property taxes would have been for such portion of the property, paren, as determined by the city assessor, close paren, had it not been exempt. Then the third item would be in paragraph 1, somewhere in there, it states the covenant contained in this section 2 shall be deemed to be a covenant. That should say in this section 1, so that's just a technical correction. And then after the existing section 4, which is the default, I would add, and these provisions were in a prior tax assessment agreement, I would add a number 5, or whatever the number would be, assignment of agreement. This agreement shall not be assignable by owner without the prior written consent of the city, which consent shall not be unreasonably withheld, conditioned, or delayed. The city shall consent to the assignment of this agreement in the event that owner sells the property to a bona fide purchaser who will develop the property in compliance with applicable zoning laws and ordinances, which is approved by the city, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld, conditioned, or delayed, and such purchaser assumes the obligation of owner under this agreement. It is understood that such purchaser may develop the property for a use different from the development. In the event of such approved assignment and assumption, owner shall be released of liability under this agreement. Then another new provision, successors and assigns. This agreement shall be binding upon the successors and assigns of owner. However, this provision shall not constitute an authorization for owner to assign or transfer its rights and obligations under this agreement, except as provided in this agreement. And then outside of just cutting and pasting provisions from prior tax assessment agreement, I would also add at the end of, I believe it's the 5.7 legal action, at the end of that paragraph or section, I would add the venue for any actions arising under this agreement shall be the Circuit Court for Milwaukee County, Wisconsin.
Hold on one second, Kristen. Are those changes amenable to the maker and the second? Both accepted. Alderman Wilhelm.
City Attorney, the section where you talked about they're allowed to build something different, does that mean that they any allowance to build anything different would be prior approval of the council or the plan commission? Or how would that work?
Yes,
It would,
it's
okay.
development within the city of Franklin. And
It's just, you don't need to spell it out, it's just automatic under our current ordinance.
Changing site plan.
Yep, that's what I thought, just
if
making
it's a
sure.
permitted use, it needs site plan approval from the plan commission.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G6 is a Personnel Committee recommendation to deny the request to raise the maximum accrual level for comp time for police sergeants from 110 to 200 hours. Madam Director of Administration.
Thanks, Mayor. So as you can see in the council action sheet, the Personnel Committee did vote this down 3-2. All the votes were counted and nobody's vote was disregarded. It was a vote of 3-2. And then there's a list in the attachments that show all of the benefits that the sergeants are getting that are the same exact benefits as the union. And then there's a short list of ones that are different. The ones that are different, the first one, dental insurance. That's an annual benefit of approximately $771 per year. I believe there are 7 out of 8 sergeants currently on that family plan, and that benefit for dental is $1,500 per member of the family each year. Life insurance obviously applies to all the sergeants. That is 2 times the salary. I believe in 2022 for all the ones at the higher level, which is 6 out of 8, that's approximately $184,000 in coverage. The personal holidays, difference between the union and the police sergeants is 1 extra day after 5 years, and 7 out of the 8 sergeants are afforded that benefit currently because they have more than 5 years of service. The vacation days, there's currently only 1 sergeant that doesn't have the requisite 130 days, but again, that would not be required. As far as sick leave goes, it is different between the police sergeants and the union. The difference is the police sergeants earn 1 bonus day every 4 months, up to 3 per year, that they do not utilize sick leave, where the employees in the union have a sick leave incentive, and that those are real numbers in that on page 48 of the council action sheet over the past 4 years. Real numbers, there were 14 out of 40 union members that received that benefit this past year, $231 that equals out to per union member. Prior to COVID, pre-pandemic levels were $298 per union employee, and again, those are based off of actual history. So the other request that was made by one of the aldermen was taking the comp time hours from 110 to 200. What if somebody earned that time early in their career and carried it? So the difference in value of the 110 to 200 hours is $4,076. There's also extra costs with WRS and taxes that would be added to that, as well as if the rate was, again, in this example, 2011, $35.54 was the rate, and then in 2021, the rate is either $45.78. I think 6 of the employees are at that. $44.79, it would be another $878. So basically, rounded to about $5,000 could be the ramifications of that. Just a couple other items to note. Just the difference, there is a much larger difference than expected or than was detailed at the Personnel Committee. The difference in salaries between the top officer and the sergeants is between 13.7 and 16.2, and I do believe those percentages would stay because when the union contract is settled, then the sergeants get that. And then there was also a comment that said there was no longevity in place, and I'm not sure where that came from. That was verified through this most recent payroll. So the Personnel Committee's recommendation is to maintain that 110 hours for police sergeants.
Yeah, I don't know where this no longevity is. I just signed 3 forms today. But anyway, where did you get that information, Peggy?
Which information?
The benefits, the differential, and the pay, and the dollar amount.
So it's just a calculation. So if there's 90 extra hours, I took an average of those pay rates, and then that would be the amount extra that they could carry over. So 90 hours times that pay rate would equal those dollars. And then again, there would be matching taxes and WRS that would be added to it.
That's a great answer, but it wasn't the question I asked because I didn't clearly ask the question. The list of benefits that you gave us.
Oh, in the employee handbook. There is, at some point in time, well before me, there was a very well thought out plan of how to bridge the sergeants as the first level of leadership from the union into leadership. And that's all listed in the employee handbook. And like I said, when you go back through all the documentation, it's a very comprehensive plan.
And the dollar amount you took off of where?
I don't know what you mean by
Payroll.
dollar amount.
You got
Oh,
the-
payroll. Yes, I'm sorry, payroll.
Back to the employee benefits handbook. Who approved that?
That gets approved by the Common Council, recommended by the Personnel Committee, and approved by the Common Council.
And are there any exceptions to that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Alderman Nelson.
Buttons pushed. All right, thank you. I'm glad that we were able to, you were able to come up with some of the differences, and that's great. And there should be differences between line officer and first line supervisor. Always have, always will be. What I made the motion at the last personnel committee to approve the 200 hours, it wasn't just for parity. It was also to help with encouraging somebody to take that next step, as you use the term leadership, which it is, to make that term without losing something. I understand what they're gaining, but you really shouldn't have to lose. And if we're looking at literally 90 hours max, if anybody was to get to that peak, which nobody is, I'm looking at this sheet, one person's at 109. Other than that, it falls off, and the bottom two have 0. So I'm looking at, are we doom and glooming this? Are we making this more of an issue than it needs to be? And that's why I still support simply making this 110 to 200 and putting it to bed. Thank you.
I have not been intimately involved with this issue, because I wanted to wait for it to come to council, and, I've done some reading and talking, whatever. One of the questions I have is why we haven't given Police and Fire Commission a crack at this to at least render an opinion. So that is something that maybe I'd like to hear from Police and Fire Commission on this. And secondly, it seems to me at this stage of the game, it's been an all or nothing situation, that there hasn't been any sort of compromise or a stepwise over the next few years to give them at least towards that. So that's something I'd maybe like to look at, how we could do that as well.
Alderman Barber, then Alderman Nelson.
That has come up in the Personnel Committee. This has been before the Personnel Committee for quite some time, and we've decided to move it forward to the council at the wishes of the sergeants who've said that we've been holding on to it or it hasn't come forward. So the motion to deny is out there, but in fact, we have discussed a mediation point. In fact, it's been 150 hours, going from 110 to 130 or 150 rather than the full amount. And there hasn't been any talk as to whether that's a possibility with the sergeants, or they haven't raised that when we were talking in session with them, because they've been to a few sessions before coming here. So that was raised, but I'd be willing to look at what the police and fire would say and find out if there is any. So to be tabling this, make a motion to table it until we could get that kind of information at the council level.
Is there a second to the motion to table? Seconded by Alderman Holfer. I already recognized Alderman Nelson for comment, so Alderman Nelson.
I'll be brief. I had a discussion with Chief Oliva a few days ago, and just there was a little scull about, first of all, unless you're in this business, it's to kind of get your head around what comp days are and how they're used. If a sergeant wishes to take a comp day, it's not going to be covered with overtime. So it's only a comp day can be used if staffing permits as far as the off days go. So that, I want a little clarification, so that's brought up, so that it's not, when you're saying, what's it going to cost? Well, it's not just at any time you wish to take that day. Yes, there is a cost at the end of the road if the officer, sergeant, like right now, if an officer does it, it's a cost that we have to incur. Same thing if there's sergeants that are gonna retire at the end of the road, that we're going to have to cost to pay it. I still don't think, we don't need, I mean, I sat in the Fire and Police Commission for 8.5 years, vice president of it. I understand what they're gonna look at, I understand what they're gonna review, and I still stand firm with trying to, tonight, move this forward and approve it.
On the motion to table. Alderman Wilhelm.
I'm disappointed in the motion to table, actually. I wish we would just deal with this instead of pushing it off. I think that it's a minimal request for compensation for a more content workforce. I think that there are staff that have jobs here at City Hall that put their lives at less risk and less stress, that are already making more, and I agree with Alderman Nelson. I think we should just approve it and move on and not laboring this out and dragging them to meetings. That's how I feel about it. So I won't support the motion to table.
On the motion, Alderman Eichman.
I also do not support the motion to table it. I feel a decision should be made this evening. I would like to see a motion to approve this. I don't feel it should be tabled by any means. Make a decision tonight. Thank you.
Alderman Barber, clarification, your motion to table for what period of time with what action? And push your button, please.
I'd like to table it until the police commission has had a chance to look at it and respond to it. And maybe for the, maybe personnel could look at a midpoint or some other point along the way as well to see if that's acceptable.
Okay, we've got a motion in a second, but let me offer you this. An alternate motion to refer to the Police and Fire Commission for a recommendation.
Fine.
But that's up to the maker in a second. Okay, so the motion has changed now to refer to the Police and Fire Commission for their review and recommendation. Okay, anyone else? All right, Madam Clerk, so the motion is to refer. On the motion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Alderman Nelson.
No,
Alderman Barber.
Yes.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
No.
Alderwoman Eichman.
No.
Alderman Hopfer.
Yes.
3-3.
I don't think it hurts to have some more information. Mayor votes to affect the outcome and votes aye. Motion carries. Okay, with that, we move on. Do you want to do a couple of these other things first? Nah, that's important, people watching. Okay, Madam Clerk, Madam Director of Administration of the 2023 budget.
This is our regular placeholder during this time of year. The budget was released on October 4th. Finance Committee held meetings on October 5th, 6th, and 11th. Council then had a discussion and actually made one more change on October 18th. We do have now the hearing notice published. That was published on October 26th. We're working on right now a final tax rate, just going through, making sure we have everything in order, answering any questions. Again, the finance director and myself are available to answer any questions at any time. And we are looking forward to the hearing on November 15th as well as council consideration at that time.
And what are you looking for tonight?
Any input or feedback the council has?
But this would not change the public hearing.
That is correct.
Okay. Alderman Wilhelm.
I'd like to discuss the capital improvement fund and the projects in there. and the different spending. So there's quite a bit in there. I'm not sure what we're gonna do. I'm on 253 in the budget. And it starts off with the status of the 2022 projects, the facilities improvements, and that's, figure that includes like the parking lot and the different improvements and,
So there's a number of structural improvements throughout the city facilities, yes. So we did round 1 already. We're looking at round 2 coming up real soon here.
and that's going to be, when we get over to the next page, that one will be carried over under current projects. Right now, I'm just reading the status projects. It's ongoing. The fiber optic cable for 1.371 million to be funded by the American Rescue Plan resources. It will go out to bid by the end of 2022. I'm sorry, I don't recall how we ended up with this decision, but I see other communities are doing things like using it for design services. They have GRAFE as a design service for different things, and I know that we have, the next one down is fire station design. How did we end up with putting in a fiber optic cable, and who does it serve?
It serves all municipal operations. We have a very less than standard internet connection at all of our facilities. We're at our police department and all of the emergency services. Our tax system is going to a cloud version. Our accounting system is a cloud version, and we have Time Warner Cable, and it goes out of service multiple times per week. So this was discussed in detail at the 2022 budget. Then in March, I believe it was the first meeting of March 2022, we had a discussion on it. I showed you all a map with the sharing that would be with the city of, with the city of Waukesha and the school district of Franklin to try to get a fiber network so that we could go on what's called WISCNet. That's the standard for all governments, nonprofits, universities, and schools
So I
throughout the
guess you've
state.
already answered my question. I'm looking for public benefit for dollars, and I think right away when you started to answer it, I heard the public benefit.
For sure.
Okay, so is there any additional American Rescue Plan resources that could assist with the design on the fire station? Because that's still on there. Or,
There's about $2.2 million that have not been assigned for the ARPA money. It has to be identified and encumbered by the end of 2024 and spent the next year. The reason, and you'll see it in a couple pages in the budget, we are recommending, because of the unknowns with the future water source, if that indeed does come to pass, there would be some funds that would be needed in the interim so that we could continue on with our current service at the higher rate and build the newer service at the
okay,
lower rate.
that's good, that's good.
So that's kind of
Okay.
in limbo right now.
That's a backup, okay. And I guess I'm not really sure we're completely all in agreement on where we're headed with this fire station. So I know it's on there for design, and I believe there was even a motion quite a ways back, I don't remember, but I think we should have more discussions, and I've kind of got a little bit more of that, my questions later on. Same thing with the Public Works Highway Building Design, which is over $500,000. That's been delayed. And then the industrial park lighting, $200,000. Where's the public benefit in the industrial park lighting portion?
Public right-of-way, public streets, lighting,
Inside the industrial park?
public streets. We're converting, we have a lot of the light poles that are the old concrete type, and they're falling apart. So we're trying to replace the poles as we can.
Aren't there any provisions inside some of these business parks where some of the businesses actually have to take care of this? I mean, you stick costs like that as a municipality on top of small condo associations with people with low incomes, but yet when we talked about a business community, we don't seem to make provisions. So I'm bringing this up because we're putting in more business parks. Is there any way we can ever get negotiations in the future? And that's just something to think about, because it doesn't seem like the residents should have to pay when they have, their own costs in their own homes. And street lighting city street lighting is the next one that you have, was 100,000.
Well, let's let's back up to the
Right.
one you just did.
On the industrial park land?
Yes. I appreciate your comment about the residents and them paying taxes, but you also have to remember that the businesses pay taxes and consume far less services. So streetlights are drop in the bucket compared to the cost of a regular residence to the city. And I never mean to do this differentiation, but you brought it up, so I had to answer it. The reality is there is a business park association. They're responsible for all the landscaping by contract and by agreement with the city. The lighting fixtures are city responsibility. I believe it's in the contract. Similarly, replacement of the concrete curbs and gutters and the asphalt. So this is a normal routine expense for any municipality. It's not, and if you want to separate it out,
I am looking for ways not to separate out, but more ways that we can compensate and offset costs in the future. That is all. So I just brought that up. You don't have to like it. You don't have to debate me on it. You just have to say, oh, she made a point. I don't like it. I'm going to let her keep going.
well,
So
I'm going to go there. I have a First Amendment right and a responsibility to 36,000 constituents to put the facts out there. There was an effort to make it poor versus rich, and I object to that, and I'm not going to let it stand. So that's why I'm
fine.
responding to it.
Okay.
And by the way, if you're looking for levy costs, you're not in the right section. So, okay.
Design in connection to the alternate municipal water system, and that, is that so it's 697.5. Is that the money you talked about possibly for American Recovery? Is it that section?
That's an estimate at this point because we're not far enough along to know what the actual cost would be. So that's an estimate. That certainly could be used. Or what I was thinking more is if the construction has to happen, we'll have to borrow money and pay interest on that money as it's being constructed. And we won't have the lower rates in place until after that, when we switch over to the new source. So I was thinking of it to bridge those capital costs, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other, it would work for that as well.
Okay, so it has on page 256 a different cost. Is that just because this page is, like you said, an estimate, but the cost that's on 256 for, on the full appropriation, I guess you have other resource values listed. What is the 107 is for impact fees. I think I've answered my own question on that one for how it's broken down. Okay. And on the water tower construction, 7 million, this should be updated as bidding process. They're out to bid. They've been let to bid. We're about ready to open those pretty soon. Is that?
We're
right?
working on that.
Okay.
We did receive an updated engineer's estimate, and it's not good, and we're working on that.
Okay. Is there possibility that might need to be delayed then, or we're going to have to come up with some other money?
Looking at all
All
possibilities.
things are on the table.
Okay. All right, and then I see all the park projects that we're not funding, and then the remaining budget park projects. So the water tower park design, it says delayed. Is that the Root Pike design, or is that the park design itself?
That'd be the actual park design.
Do we have any funding regarding the Root Pike design listed somewhere in the budget? As I couldn't catch everything, but I didn't know if that was in there.
I believe that's in the 2022 budget, isn't it? Aren't we working on that right now?
I believe it was in the 22 budget,
And
offset by our MMSD monies.
did you do an RFP? Because I thought I saw an email from Christie that she said there was an RFP on that.
There was an RFP, and we had a conversation. We need a real bid on the project, so they will be going to a real bid.
Okay. Because I thought she said they only got one or something, and so.
Right. And it was really just a quote, and it was too high to award a quote, so we had a conversation about actually doing a real public works bid.
Well, yeah, because the resolution says have to do a bid. You actually have to come to council for that bid before you go out for bid. You remember that part?
I believe that was, I'll double check, but I believe that was authorized.
No, the item number 5 of the resolution was amended to make sure that you brought back the design contracts to the council before you went out to bid. Because in the section of the 35th Street on mine, we have not seen any design on that project.
No, as we talked the other day, we're nowhere near a design yet. So
Right. And I'm wondering if we need an update on that before we even spend the money on design. Because I don't think the council here knows what that project is about, because it kind of went from what I thought was going to be a small cost around an outlet culvert to 850 feet of a creek being moved, which I was pretty shocked by. So I'm going to need a neighborhood meeting and a council update on that really quick. So can you do that on that project?
okay.
On the Pleasant View Park improvements for $120,000, what is that still left remaining for? I thought we had pretty much closed that up.
What page are you on?
I'm on 254.
Right, I think that was just to give an update on where we're at with the 22, so the extra 120, that was, remember there was a budget in the year before of 300,000, and then the council in 2022 added the 120, and I think the bids came in at 407, if I'm not mistaken, so that's being spent on that.
On the extra parking lot and trail and all that?
Everything that was included in that 400.
Okay, so that's the remaining that's left of that yet to spend?
No,
Or
that was the 22 budget money
Okay.
that was added. So this is
Okay.
really just listing for you, we had $100,000 for water park design. And delayed just means we are understanding, Denise and I are understanding that it's delayed. It doesn't mean there was any formal action.
Okay.
But on the Pleasant View Park improvements, the spending is ongoing.
Okay, so now brings us to the same page on 2023 major projects. The one that I want to make sure we're all on board is this DPW cold storage building and other prep and fire station, which is almost $3 million. I don't,
254.
254. Yeah. So I don't know where we're even at with that. I know we've had a couple discussions on it, but I don't remember sitting up here, and I did miss a meeting or so maybe, but I don't remember all of us sitting up here and saying, yes, we really want to go through, and yes, we're committed to doing this project, and yes, we're going to build it, and so there's this $3 million, so.
So it was my budget, it's my recommendation, so I'll jump in and do this. Relative to the fire station design, the need continues, and we've discussed that need here at the council on many occasions. In order to keep moving on a potential project, and in the thought that regardless, we'll have to do something at some point, that's why the design number's in there. On the off chance that we do something and start to move forward with physical construction of a new fire station, we need to do something to move current buildings on the DPW site and cover that inventory and those pieces of equipment, and that's why the cold storage building is in there. So it's trying to think ahead. None of it's been approved by anybody and would need to be approved by this body to move forward, including, yeah, we'll build a fire station. Yeah, we need the cold storage in December, better order it now, kind of thing. So that's all yet to come. That's part of what the budget process is all about.
Okay, thanks. In the past, when the budget, and maybe I just didn't locate it within this, massive documents, but we always had these, like approved project chart. That would be projects that were going to be approved for this year. Do we actually have that? Because this is a completely different setup than the budgets previously, where I could go to there and go, yep, it's already funded and pretty much there's no stopping it now. And here we have kind of a list of projects that are listed, but they're not really on that official approved project chart.
So there, that's really not a thing, an approved project chart. The council approves those projects, and the budget is the vehicle to do that. There's also additional measures in place that the council, at least in the 3 budgets I've seen, there's been a ton of projects in there that have not been approved, and it was basically, this is, again, part of the mayor's budget or part of a request from a council member, and it gets included in the budget, and then we go down the path of deciding whether it's going to happen or not. So I'm not, this whole idea of this is the approved project list and this is the unapproved project list, that doesn't really exist in a budget. It's either approved and it's in there, or it's not in there, and it's on a wish list somewhere. So
Right.
that, we didn't entertain that kind of an idea because, very honestly, it's not a thing, but we can certainly, we have a CIP plan for the out years and things that the council would want to push forward. We have been talking about, a capital improvement committee, and I think in the new year, that would be a really good thing to get started on, is to talk about what's in the budget and have a workshop. We talk a lot about workshops with some council members about, there's things that shouldn't be made very quickly in a decision at one council meeting. So it's something where it should be, and sorry, I called it a workshop, a committee of the whole, so that the council can ask the questions and get the answers and let staff know what to, direct staff on what to go back and do. And I think that would be a very good idea for a lot of these larger projects.
Yeah, I think my point was how helpful that sheet has been over the years, where I can say, when it's listed like approved projects, it means the mayor not only recommended the funding, but when we put it, we didn't object to remove it. And so they were all in a nice, clean list.
But they didn't really mean they were approved, because then we would, like the Kalis Playground. So the first year I was here, there was $1 million of park projects that were in there.
Well, however
Also
you
had no
want,
intention of
however
doing
you
any
want
of
to
them.
label the chart, if you look back in the previous budgets, you'll see what I was talking about. And I'm
Right,
just,
oh, I know exactly what you're talking
and
about.
I'm just saying
Page
that,
256 answers that question.
okay. So on,
Oh, is that the chart? There was a different chart. Yeah, there was a different one.
It's
I have a question on what PPI policy $221 and
EPII is infill and infiltration.
is.
So that's the project that's ongoing with MMSD.
And
That was approved,
There's actually a few projects. So one's a
the big one.
situation where we're trying to get in, do inspections in homes. Another one is having a conversation, and this will be coming forth really soon, discussion on actually in your district, the 2 mobile home parks. There's a lot of infiltration in those private lines in there. And then there's also the sump pump discharge program that we've talked about before.
so does this include that PPI homeowners, you were going to do some kind of,
The education, yes.
yeah, is that part of this fund?
Yes.
Is this broken down somewhere where it's all more clear on what those projects are inside of that?
I don't have a budget book, but we can provide that for you.
Okay, because it would be really great for us to know what those projects, because I don't know, is this PPI going to be part of this 35th Street project? Is that PPI funds?
No,
That's green funds?
that'd be a green
Is that
fund.
in here somewhere?
Don't believe, actually, I believe it was.
Could you, off time,
Yeah.
make sure that I can understand what that is, because that's kind of important for that.
And if not, it would be a budget amendment, because it would, and it'd be no out-of-pocket money to the city. We would have grant funding coming in to cover that.
All of it? That's covered by grants?
So there would be grants, and then there'd be the green funding from MMSD, yes.
Alderwoman, I have to do this because it's my job, but it would be helpful if this conversation was held offline with staff.
Well, if I could.
Because that opportunity's been afforded to every one of you, and I don't think a couple of them have taken advantage of it. That's more appropriate than the entire common council time for these items that arguably reflect your district.
They're not all questions that reflect my district, and I think they're important for, they're not all. I don't, I don't,
Anybody on the council object to me just
this is not polite. It's not a polite way to go. I want to say to the people that are in the Finance Committee, I'm really thankful that you were able to spend that time doing that and going through that. In the past, we have had time as a council to do discussions like this in open, so the public can also hear the questions that we have. It used to be before the Committee of the Whole. We didn't have the Committee of the Whole. And the last meeting, it wasn't clear to me that we would have any ability to make any adjustments. I'm not even asking to make any adjustments. Right now, I'm asking for clarification and understanding, because if I'm looking at this and all the budgets that I've been through, and it's not clear to me, I'm sure it's not clear to everyone. Maybe that's clear to some of you that have spent a lot of time on the budget, but I think a council member who's going to be asked to vote on this has a right to understand it. And I don't think I've asked any questions that are out of line. And I have, a few sections that really are a lot of our spending. The majority of our spending are in Section 8. And because it was written differently this year, I just want to make sure I understand it. Had it maybe been presented in the same manner, maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and having to go through it, but that's where we are. So I'd like to just, kind of try to get a little more handle on this. I have had, some conversations with Peggy. She's asked me, but there's been a lot of stuff thrown at us. We're writing things at the license. We're taking care of fireworks stuff. We're taking care of, I came here with the biggest briefcase that I've had in a year with information that's been thrown at us at budget time, at the same time. So, well, everyone's had a lot of time to look at this. Some of us haven't. So could someone please clarify what the 35th to Drexel Trail is? That's within the budget. It just kind of popped up. I've not really heard much discussion on that, and all of a sudden it's there.
What page are you on?
I don't remember where I saw it in here, but it's on one of these sheets. I think it's...
I believe it's in 2024.
Right.
That was a discussion that there might be a trail to go from basically where we were at the other day on 35th Street that would head directly south to Drexel. So basically, if you can imagine 35th Street extended, but instead of being a street, it would be a trail.
Do we have money here in the budget for a right-of-way, or because we don't own that parcel?
I believe it was in 24, I believe was the...
2024.
So land right-of-way is in the 2024 as well as this?
Memory, I believe so.
I guess I'd like to revisit that whole path and section. So could we have some more updates on what that concept is going to be? Because we've added a lot of sections of sidewalks and different routes. I'm not sure that's necessary to be in the budget. But I guess since we're supposed to limit our discussion on the budget, I will yield the floor.
Alderman Nelson.
Just two quick points. I have a quick question. I think one of them, earlier before the meeting, I just wanted to get, and I asked Peggy where the landfill siting revenues were actually going to. And I think they're spread around, and it's tough to kind of get a handle on exactly where they are. And I would just ask that for next meeting, if there could be a simple breakdown, like
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I mean, I know I walked you through one by one,
Yeah.
but we have a sheet already that is just all the budget accounts that it's broken down in between. We'd be happy to send that email out tonight.
Yeah, if I could just, so I know where these siting fees are going would be great. because that's one of the things, you know, we're looking at, that nice box of money that gets dumped off every year, but even though it's twice what we initially expect it to be, that means it's going to shorten the lifespan of that funding. Thank you. Number two is the streets. Do we have, you know, I'm looking at what streets are going to be replaced for next year or repaired, and I did not see Hawthorne on there. I thought we understood that was like one of the worst ones that we have in the rating system, and then is that slated still for 2023?
So there was a recommendation at Board of Public Works, and you were part of that, where we talked about, I forget the number, 2.5 plus 400,000 for the, but we didn't get that in the budget. So it's, I believe it's 1.5 that includes everything. So probably be a discussion.
1.45.
Oh, yeah, so we reduced it for curb and gutter, I believe. So there'll probably be a discussion at Board of Public Works to discuss the final listing of streets. And then obviously we'll come here for that.
Okay, so this isn't that, all right, I just want to make sure that final decision's not.
Streets are not, individual streets are
Specifically.
not part of the budget.
I got you, I just want to, I've seen some of here, I've seen some reference here on
There's a list.
262
On
and
267, there's a list. of
67, there's a list,
requests,
and that's
but
why I'm figuring I'm talking
Don't see
about.
Hawthorne on there.
No, it's not vanished, but there's some discussion here on 250.
Because there was a
262.
400,000 for Hawthorne that wasn't listed in the street list.
Initially, that was the discussion, that was the amount that was supposed to be used for that, and then now it's not there.
So we'll have to determine whether we include that in the overall cost.
Because we're down to less than 1.5 million, Mayor, is that what you're saying for the street improvement fund?
1.445, right? Ed? Something like that.
Which is
It's not
400
going away. It's for curb and gutter.
450,000 higher than it was ever before.
And Peggy makes that point appropriately because she was the one that told me it's going to be $1.5 million. And I went, really? Okay, can we do it? So everybody needs to remember that. It's up $1.5 million. It's up $500,000 from prior years.
And still way lower than it's going to need to be because we've got some 100-year turns. but
Well,
that's
we
not
can,
for
we
tonight.
can argue about that, but Glenn, that just takes that argument off of Glenn's.
Thank you, I yield.
Thank you. Anybody else? Peggy, what action you want tonight?
If there's no changes, again, we're happy to answer any questions. We will get back to you as quickly as we can, and we'll have a little presentation at the public hearing, an abbreviated version of the presentation we had on kickoff night. I'll explain the changes, and we'll do the public hearing, and then we'll be asking for council consideration on November 15th so that we can move forward with the tax bills. There was a question from one alderman on the tax rates, and I did include that in a paragraph on the council action sheet. When we put the budget out, we were estimating 439. That's down from 483 last year. We just got the manufacturing values, so we're looking at the final rates, and ballpark, we're still somewhere between 437 and 440 on the local rate. And we have a couple tax levies in. I think we got the third one today, but we're expecting the rest of them in the near future. So by the 15th, we should have all of those.
You look at me, I'm not a rate guy.
I know.
Okay. Anybody else on this budget? Move on to G8, which is some information for the Department of Public Works on inclusion of sidewalks, lighting, and other design elements in 27th Street, Elm to Villa. Mr. City Engineer.
Okay. So I note there that DOT was looking to do from Elm to Villa in 2029. And like almost every other DOT project, they've accelerated it immensely. So now it is within our 5-year timeframe, and we need to do some work. So they're asking for some questions as they are working on their design, and they'd like an answer by November 5th. So it's important that at least I have some direction tonight to notify them what the will of the Common Council is. So I don't know if you want to go through these one by one, or I'll just go through them all, and we can back up and do a suggestions
One
for
by
each one. Okay. First of all, if you're familiar with the lighting and signage and benches and other things that we did from villas to college, the question is it Common Council's desire to do something similar for this section from Elm to Villa? So if so, don't have a cost yet. They actually want us to actually hire a consultant to do the design, to put it in their plans. And so I'd have to come back with a design contract. That's not budgeted. We'd have to talk about a budget amendment where that would come from in the next meeting or maybe a couple of meetings once I can get that together. So I guess the question is there, and Oak Creek is being asked to make this a similar discussion. It sounds like they are, but we don't have a definite answer from Oak Creek yet. So I guess for Franklin's standpoint, are we interested in trying to follow the same look and feel as Villas to College?
If you're looking at the center chair, this shouldn't even be a discussion item, especially for the DOT, who was participants in that entire effort on 27th Street. And the fact that they're asking us these
So I would
stupid
suggest that the appropriate answer is yes, you're interested and I need to pursue a design
I'm
contract.
just one,
Yes.
no dissension. Okay, issue number, and by the way, HNTB, which is one of their prime contractors, did all the design work on the stuff to the north. So,
So I will reach out to HNTB and
of course, let me calm down and just say, it's probably a casualty of turnover in staff, and nobody knows what the hell is going on. So, I'm going to be in the next meeting, Glenn.
okay.
Next
So
item.
issue number 2, I just call this general sidewalks. If you look on page 65, DOT did an analysis and they are willing to pay 100% of some sidewalks. They are willing to pay a portion, like half of some other sidewalks. If you look at the map there, so you'll see on the Franklin side from Villa to Acre, they are willing to pay 100% if we should desire. Also keep in mind that if you should desire to match what was done to the north, we actually widen the sidewalk by an extra foot. And for the non-residential properties, we assess them. So I guess, so before I finish that, so the yellow section that you see between Acre and Putes, they do not think that a sidewalk in that section is feasible. They're proposing no sidewalk. The blue section of sidewalk you see between Putes and Southland, in their analysis, they are willing to pay half of that sidewalk, of a typical sidewalk, so that would cost the city $36,250. The yellow section again.
Wait. You blew right past that one. What is the reason that they're only willing to share half on that one and pay the entire cost on the rest of them?
I don't fully understand. They do have a system that they, I don't know if it's based on the potential usage or the actual road cross section or some of the other issues that the engineers look at, but this is what they do.
Local traffic versus regional traffic. I want to have that conversation with them too. I'd be interested in having them tell me that the local traffic only accounts for 50%. Yeah, but this is a sidewalk on top of it. Yeah, you guys got to use your mics, but
I'm
Alderman Wilhelm asked if there was infrastructure they're working on. The net of it is, we're going to find out, and it's not going to be a
the
pleasant.
gentleman I was talking to didn't know either. The engineers use their formulas, and that's what they're willing to do.
Yep. Okay, next one.
Again, infeasible from Southland to Briarwood, but they are willing to pay 100% from Briarwood to Ryan Road. So,
Okay, wait. See, you blast past these. The infeasible one, is it infeasible just based on the additional right-of-way required, or is it physically impossible to put anything outside the curb or ditch?
if I recall the conversation, I believe it was, there are wetland issues, and so additional right-of-way may or may not be needed. There was a rule some time ago that the governor, I think the previous governor passed, that they could not take land for pedestrian uses. So that is part of it.
That's correct. So the question I have is, okay, they can't put a sidewalk in, but they're certainly able to widen the street to provide a bike lane access on the shoulder. in place of it.
So I think I'm hearing, can they widen street in the yellow sections?
That's correct.
And then like more justification on why they're asking us to pay half from Franklin, I'm sorry, from Putes to Southland.
You guys wonder why I get the reputation I do. I don't take
Right.
this stuff laying down, and
Right.
and they'd prefer to just tell us, and that's the way it is.
Is there a
And
desire?
we wouldn't have the lawn guard building right now if we did that.
Is there a desire to widen it? If you recall the past section, that was 100% on local, but we did assess the property owners for that. Are you okay with a typical, I believe it's a 5-foot sidewalk as opposed to a 6?
The purpose of the 6-foot was to accommodate both bike and pedestrian traffic. It's designated as a multi-use path. And as I recall, that was a requirement of the DOT back then, who's since bailed on almost all the 27th Street design elements. So unless somebody argues with me, 6 feet.
6 feet? Okay.
It's supposed to be 10, but
Number 3 is the Saputo Cheese sidewalk is what I refer to it as. They, again, I don't know why, but they determined that it was not feasible to do a sidewalk in that area. Having said that, Saputo Cheese doesn't mind putting a sidewalk in. They're even discussed that they're willing to, put the land there, but they didn't feel it was necessary to put a sidewalk that really doesn't go to anything at this time. I mentioned in here that this was a big discussion of the north-south bus rapid transit system. They are not extended to our business park, and one of the justifications was they didn't see that there was adequate pedestrian facilities. So chicken and egg, you almost have to create it beforehand. Saputo is putting sidewalk along Oakwood Road, but they're not putting sidewalk along 27th. They're not opposed to it, but there's a big ditch in front. So they're willing to, at least our discussion with their staff is they're willing to do it, but and they're willing to pay for it if and when that should happen. They're willing to pay whatever the city's cost would be for that.
I remember having a conversation about them not wanting to do it because of the need, but that they were willing to do it. Did that ever get into the agreement? 'Cause I thought that's what we said.
We don't have an agreement yet.
For the Saputo sidewalk?
Correct.
When they built the site plan, we didn't put it in during the site plan?
we don't have a developer's agreement yet.
It was
It's with them
discussed.
for review.
I know, but I thought when we were approving the development, we had that discussion. I thought it was one of those points. I thought we were like, maybe some of us wanted it, but it didn't get in there. But I just thought maybe you could check that.
It was
Everybody wanted it, and yeah, we'll check on it.
It was mentioned in the resolution. So they were,
So
But
if
here's
that's
the deal,
case,
Glenn.
they'll have a public infrastructure agreement in
Yes.
place. That'll be separate from the development agreement.
so I think I'm hearing consensus that we do want to try to do the Saputo and again, make it a 6-foot as opposed to a 5-foot.
This is the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing. The state just gave all kinds of funding or is about to give all kinds of funding for the BRT, provided there's pedestrian access to get to the stops.
Correct.
They want to have the BRT down there, but
Okay. And the last issue is something they're willing to pay 100% for, but they would ask us to maintain it in the future. So apparently there was a pedestrian fatality at the corner of Southland Drive and 27th Street. They're willing to put a crosswalk in for a safer pedestrian crossing. But they would want the city to promise that we would have to maintain the crosswalk.
So here's the question. In this 27th Street corridor streetscape plan, that calls for colored concrete. Is that what they're proposing?
They are proposing the zebra that you see there in the drawing. Zebra pattern crosswalk.
Paint.
I'm trying to remember. I don't recall colored concrete for the other crossings. Is there colored concrete for 27th Street up north?
Well, let's be, all I'm saying is let's be consistent, but it's great that we have to pay for paint. Ridiculous.
Okay.
So we're going to be on a phone call.
So the answer is yes for that.
The what? That's our, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Kristen.
So if I'll just take the consensus, if you could give me a nod, I'll issue a letter by the end of the week.
I would just say if there's going to be budget items soon, I know a lot of these are 25 and 26, but if we need some direction from the council on where those funds come from, because it's really easy to say that we'll do a budget amendment, and then when it comes to a budget amendment, and then somebody walks into finance and says, yeah, where should I get this money? And we say, yeah, we have no money, then it becomes a problem. So if it's a reprioritization of the 2023 budget projects, or whatever the direction from the council is, that would be really helpful.
I don't have a dollar amount yet. I'm still working on, or haven't even contacted the consultant, but I was thinking of the unused funds for the DPW building that we used, or part of, for another issue recently.
So Glenn, I'm going to say this because it's on the record. It's going to be a phone call to the highest ranking project manager first, and then the letter.
Okay, will do. I'll do that first thing
Go to
tomorrow.
the regional DOT guy, and if that doesn't work, I'll go to the state. This is
I'll make that phone call first thing tomorrow.
with me on it.
What's that? Oh, sure.
G9 is resolution authorizing enhancement of an existing fence within a 5-foot drainage easement. Alderwoman, Alderman Hanneman. Hanneman, seconded by Alderman Barber. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. G10 is an authorization for installation of streetlights under a lease agreement. Sunnybrook Road and Forest Home. Alderman Nelson.
Engineer, do you have any comments?
This is to accommodate the county road project in Forest Home. And so when We Energies takes down a HPS light, they do not put that back up. They put up a LED light, and the LED lights are more expensive. And I can speak for the mayor, but that's the procedure.
Is there a second? Second. Alderman Wilhelm, and then I've got a comment.
Letter says, it closes, we look forward to working with you on your lighting project. Did we didn't request this, did we?
No.
Okay, I just thought that was it.
It is our light on their pole.
And how many lights is this? How many poles?
That we've done this year.
No, this project.
Oh, this is,
I think it's one.
I don't know that I've done another one on this.
It says -1 + 1. So what we're going to have is
That we
a whole
take
street of high pressure sodium and one daylight LED. That's going to be great. Once again,
If you'd
Okay.
like to replace the others, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to charge you for those two.
oh, I'm sure they would, and the county would be happy to facilitate and add 10% to
But
it.
this pole has to be moved, which is why they're doing it.
Okay, there was a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Glenn, next time you hear me say I got a meeting with the Ally from Wisconsin Electric, remind me of this. G11 is an ordinance to amend, I'm sorry, Alderman Wilhelm.
You're gonna
And
table
I
this one.
promised you and I didn't do that. Alderman Wilhelm.
Well, I'm related to G11 here. This is a thing that we've taken up quite a long time ago. But the goal here is just to have the UDO and the municipal code terms consistent throughout. And one of the things that is in the UDO is the word construction. So we should insert the construction term from the UDO in the section on page 84. And that is in
Sorry.
that's in 15-11.
So you're substituting what?
No, on page 84,
Okay.
there is all these words for construction site erosion, but the word construction has its own definition in the UDO. So if you're looking for consistency with the two, in 15-11, there are terms that would make those two consistent. The other one, use the UDO activity land disturbing construction definition versus the land disturbing construction activity definition. which is on page 85. You see that? Land disturbing. Well, the UDO has a different definition than what's here. One of the things that, and maybe you might want to do a combination of the two. One of the things that's in the UDO that's missing from this one is the removal of vegetative cover. And if you look on page 103, you'll see the definition from 165, which is also the same definition that was carried over in the UDO. So those two are consistent. Land disturbance, any man-made change to the land surface, including removing vegetative cover. And the reason why this became so important during the last time we discussed this is because we had people who thought that if they removed the vegetative cover, that they could hide a wetland or get a wetland for not being called a wetland because the plant, you identify a wetland with a delineation, but it has to have, the plant life and the hydrology and the soils. And they were thinking that they were getting, it wasn't working, but that's why it should be in there. So then on insert on page 82, under where it says 129-2 construction site erosion control permit, and it lists the 15-8 of the Unified Development Ordinance, it should also list 15-8.0306 and not just 302.
Okay.
And on the page 83, there is the C permit and fee schedules. I think that is actually the 15-8.3006B, but I did not compare them word for word.
Okay.
So those were my suggested changes.
We've had some other suggestions, so staff would suggest that we table this for tonight.
See, Glenn's cutting me off because he knows I had something to say about this.
Motion
Are you-
table?
Well,
Or was there a motion
Let's be
already?
clear. No, there was not a motion.
Okay.
Motion to table to a committee of the whole, December or January? January,
Why committee of the whole?
because there's conversation here. Did anybody read on page 83, permit fee schedules and applicable charges?
Well, those are already,
Class, no, it's not. Class 3 has a potential to be really expensive.
well, those are in 15-8.0306. That's the section I said that's already kind of there.
Regardless,
Oh, so you
I got a
don't,
problem.
you don't like the,
See, you guys,
no.
fortunately, you don't all get the same calls I do. We've got one and possibly more developers that are really angry. And it's not because Glenn's doing, or staff's doing anything wrong, it's because we need to take a look at this as it relates to the rest of the world and our treatment of development in the city while still maintaining control over some of this use of consultants and how we do business. We got $1,000 a month for looking at silt fence. Madam Clerk.
You people will not have a meeting not me, but you people, will not have a committee of the whole meeting in January as it's a holiday.
February meeting.
Okay.
Is that your motion? No, who made that motion? Somebody made a motion
I made the motion to table it.
to February 1st? Or the first meeting of first committee of the whole in February?
Yes, that one.
That was your second? Okay. Wilhelm and Eichmann. Alderman Holfer.
We can forward or ask you additional questions regarding this prior to we
Sure.
have the answers.
Yep.
One of the things that I would like to do, I mean, I appreciate what we're doing here and trying to get it all uniform, but I've seen so many issues with so many people doing things that I didn't know I needed a permit, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, and then whether they get fined for not having a permit. I want to make sure that everybody's treated equal. If they're residential, if they're a developer, I'd like to make sure we don't have any more where we're filling in wetland or reserved areas. You know, we had somebody in the industrial park, you know, we need to expand our building and we had to fill in parking spaces for cars and they filled in areas they were not supposed to fill to coordinate all of this together and better communicate so people have an easier way to find out what the requirements are.
Great. The motion is tabled to the February Committee of the Whole. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to, because the rest are closed session, we move on to item vouchers. I'm sorry, licenses. What am I doing? Who's doing that? Alderman Wilhelm. Alderman, so used to doing it that way. Hanneman.
I'm going to come back to the first item. Applicant Zaramskis approved with a letter, and they have already satisfied their court determination. Caitlin Smith is to be approved. The Franklin Civic Celebration Committee for Independence celebration to be approved. And recommending a schedule date for a meeting to review the fireworks process on Thursday, November 10th at 4 p.m. here in the Alderman's Room. Sit at City Hall then. Okay, we can determine the room later. Going back up to the first one, Ryan Fuel LLC, applicant for a Reserve Class B combination. An issue has come up since our discussion, and I would maybe recommend to hold over for one more meeting. Because we were going to approve pending approval of, or pending compliance with all of the city codes and payment of applicable fees. One question that still remains, because the primary use of the location is not a restaurant, how are they going to handle unaccompanied minors coming in? That would be, so
Well, let's just table that one.
let's just. Sure.
The License Committee made a recommendation to the council. Now, one particular License Committee member came here with some new information that wasn't shared by the License Committee in the conversation. So I'm not sure how between leaving that room and the recommendation that happened, but it's, you know.
The city clerk brought that up to me in the break.
Okay. Well, since it's here, Mr. Kumar and his wife left there with the understanding that the License Committee made a recommendation for approval. And so I think that since it's here before the council, as we made a recommendation, can all completely discuss the issue. And then have everyone give an input on that. So, since I still have the floor, Mr. Kumar came in and is willing to came in and is willing to pay the $10,000 reserve license fee because he would like to increase his food services at the gas station that he has on 51st. And I've never been in there. I don't know. I'm over on the other side of town. But he, to me, made a valid statement that You know, it would help his business and he could employ people. And he's taking this chance with this license, and he obviously knows if he can't meet all the requirements and permits and such, that he knows he could take his chance and lose his license. But he feels very confident that he could get through anything that the planning commission or the planning staff had asked of him, and he said he would fully comply. And he made his, actually the recommendation, I believe, even came with a contingency. So now there's a question of how is he going to handle minors? Well, I think that that's handled the way every other process is handled in an establishment. And I'm a little disappointed that, you know, he didn't get a chance to hear that. And I guess I'd like to hear the rest of the council say about, you know, we have a solid businessman. He's been very good. He was in my district, never had any problems. He's unfortunately moved out of my district, and he's just asking for the ability to increase food. He said in the summertime he wants to put an outdoor patio. He gets a lot of business people from the business park, and he wants to offer them more lunch opportunities and more business socializing opportunities, because sometimes I'm sure the business people come there and they bring clients, and they, you know, he wants to offer that outdoor setting later on. So I don't know, I guess I'll, you know, yield the floor, but
Okay. Let me offer a suggestion. Alderman Eichmann.
I was just going to say, with the understanding when they did.
I had a comment.
There you go. Sorry, I was going to say, with the understanding when they did leave licensing this evening, however, nothing was approved by council. They were going to be calling the city clerk tomorrow.
well, that's the typical license process.
Right. So.
Right, but they left their understanding they had our 3 votes of support, and now it's like the usual thing where you call in the morning. And
Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Within Volition and different venues that deal with tobacco and alcohol, there has been some issues raised about their ability to control the staff and the sale of alcohol and tobacco. In fact, they have been subject, like many businesses in Franklin, to our youth going in and trying to sell or trying to purchase, and they've been able to purchase on many occasions. Now, I don't know if the police have any kind of record as to how often when they find people or youth that have alcohol or that is coming from that location. So I just would like to have that on the table as far as this review goes, that in the past, I know it has been a problem, and the attitude that seemed to come across at that time, third-party conversations, is that they didn't care. They'd rather pay the fine because they're making more money. And that has been an issue that seemed to be, I don't know if it's resolved yet. Maybe it has been. I'm not sure. But it might be a consideration at this point as well.
The point is that there's been issues in the past. At
51st and Ryan.
Madam Clerk.
I just want to clarify for those council members who are not on the license committee, a reserve Class B license is on-premise consumption. They currently have a Class A license, which allows them to sell fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquor. This Class B license would, in essence, he's going to put a bar in his current building, and the reserve is because it is over our normal quota. We do have extra reserve licenses, but every reserve license comes with a $10,000 application fee. But just to clarify that the B is different than what he has. He already has one, but it's an A. This will be a B.
Clarification, bar or said in booths? Sir, why did bar?
The Class B license does not have, it does not grant him authority to sell food.
Right.
So I was not there for the first few minutes. That's why I brought it up to Alderwoman Hanneman about, I didn't know if he had provision for a gate, if the council wanted, something gated off. I don't know if he's open 24 hours, but he,
Wait, Kristen.
so, but whether he has booths or tables or a bar, it doesn't matter. It's the type of license. He could have anything. He could start out with a booth, and I don't know that that's the issue, is what kind of seating and arrangements he has. It's the actual type of license.
Okay. I appreciate the support of the local business, and Mr. Kular's always been a good business person to deal with, and I'm sure he will be in the future, but this is alcohol. This is pouring it out of a bottle. This is serious stuff. And I have no doubt that Mr. Kular will be able to come up with a plan that meets the needs of the city and the community. However, there's a lot of questions here. Well, I've heard restaurant, I've heard bar, we don't know. So my suggestion to the council is approve the ones that need approval and table Andy's on Ryan LLC or Ryan Fuel LLC to the next license committee meeting where you can ask them these questions again, and we can all have the proper answers and be comfortable in knowing that at least the operator knows there's issues. Right now, I don't think Mr. Kular knows there's an issue of any kind. So my suggestion is there a motion on this?
Alderwoman making tied in with the other. So if you want to do them with the exception.
Well, my suggestion is that the motion be amended to motion to approve all of those and table the Ryan Fuel LLC to the next license committee meeting. And that way you can get your answers and not turn them down.
Or sort of skipping a few steps procedurally. I probably should have made the motion to approve on behalf of the committee before bringing up the conversation on that one. So that is my apology. So at this point, I would like to amend my motion to approve all except for Ryan Fuel LLC, which would be tabled or held over till the next meeting.
I'll second.
Yes. And setting the
Thursday.
November 10th at 4 p.m.
I guess, can the alderman send questions to the clerk for the licensing committee to ask the applicant? So, I'm there. I'm just. Well, I'm wanting the other aldermen that seem to have questions on it, because I would have just voted for it and been done with it, but.
Okay, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. License, payroll and vouchers. Is there a motion approving city vouchers ending date of November 1st in the amount of $125,244.84, and payroll dated October 21st in the amount of $456,197.74, and payments to various payroll deductions in the amount of $453,684.08, plus city matching payments, and estimated payroll for November 4th, estimated at $435,000, plus payroll deductions estimated at $238,000, plus city matching payments.
So move.
Second.
Madam Clerk, your last, oh, maybe not. Roll call.
Alderman Hopeberg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no nos, no absent, no abstentions. With that, we've reached all of our open session items. Conclusion.
Actually, I have 12, 13, and 14 ready to go in open session. It would just be closed if the council so desires.
Okay. Let's go to item 12. Sorry, thanks. I just saw the closed session and I figured. Item G12, Walmart Real Estate versus City of Franklin. Madam Director of Administration.
So this is the item, council talked to the attorney that's representing the city through its insurer, LWMI, meeting, and the attached proposed agreement is what the council discussed. There was an alternative option, however, that was going to actually cost the city more, so it was gone back to the original request.
Hofer and Hanneman move to approve the agreement. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G13, Sam's Real Estate versus City of Franklin. Madam Director.
Same story on this one, except for there's no exception. This is exactly what the council directed the attorney to address, and he did, and the agreement is also attached.
Second.
Hofer and Eichman. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G14, FF&E LLC versus City of Franklin Board of Review. Madam
Same-
Director.
Same thing with this one. This was also discussed in closed session with a different attorney from the same firm, from our insurer, and no exceptions to the recommendation that council, or the direction that council gave to the attorney.
Hanneman, Barber. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we've reached the end of our open session items. Do not anticipate returning the video stream. We will record the audio as we come out of closed session. There a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 1985 sub 1 sub F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would likely have substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, and to re-enter open session in the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate.
Second.
Hofer and Eichman, all, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hopeberg.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nos, no absence.
I choose to vacate for the first part of this discussion.
Okay. Well,
Recording
we can
stopped.
call him back. Okay.